This is a lecture from Open Tuition. For the free slides that go with this podcast, please visit opentuition.com.
The term stakeholder refers to any person or institution in any way affected by your organization. Stakeholders can be broken down into three groups, though this is not particularly helpful. Internal stakeholders are those who are definitely inside the organization. A good example would be the employees, the shareholders, and the managers. Connected stakeholders are outside the organization, but connected really by way of a contract of some sort. Good examples here would be suppliers, customers, and lenders. External stakeholders are entirely outside the organization, with no contractual relationship. The best example for this would be the people living nearby a factory. They are obviously affected, but have very limited contractual rights over what the factory does. Why is the study of stakeholders important? And really the reason is that usually what stakeholders want will be in conflict. Shareholders want higher profits, but employees want higher wages. Customers want better quality and lower prices. Shareholders want better profit. Customers may want the operation to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Employees might want it to only work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. If your organization was an airport, the local populace would want you to run fewer flights, and certainly not after about 11 o'clock at night, whereas your customers and indeed your shareholders may want you to run services more frequently. There's no easy way in resolving these conflicts. Basically, it comes down to management compromising. They have to try and keep most people happy most of the time, bearing in mind, however, that some stakeholders may be able to stop cooperating altogether. For example, when employees want better wages, they could go on strike, and ultimately this can affect the profits which are enjoyed by the shareholders. Management has to be aware that there are conflicts and try its best to manage these. About the only tool or model available for the analysis of stakeholders is Mentiloff's matrix. This sets out on one axis the power that a stakeholder can wield, and along the other axis their interest, by which we mean how likely is it that the stakeholder will take action. Stakeholders which have high power and high interest are known as key players. Management really needs to keep those people happy. They have the power and have the willingness to do something about it if they're upset. Some stakeholders have high power, but they are likely to take action even if management does something which they dislike. They may be unwilling to take action because of professional or ethical reasons. For example, medical staff in hospitals are very unlikely to take industrial action. Management doesn't have to be quite so careful with these people. However, they have to be kept satisfied, otherwise they could be provoked to take action and turn into key players. People with low power but high interest have to be kept informed. They can't do much about it themselves, but they might be able to influence key players to take action on their behalf. Finally, we have people with low power and low interest. Management can nearly ignore these people. After all, what are they going to do if they don't like what's happening? Corporate governance refers to how companies are directed and controlled. The real problem is the separation of ownership and control. Shareholders own the company, but unless a company is very small, they will not normally be dealing with the day-to-day running of the company. Instead, shareholders appoint directors to do that. Technically, the directors are the agents of the shareholders. The shareholders are the principals in this relationship, and the directors should act in the best interests of the shareholders. Another way of describing this is stewardship. The directors are the stewards of the company assets. They look after them on behalf of the shareholders. But how do we know if the directors are acting in this way? Directors have day-to-day management responsibilities, and shareholders may only get a set of accounts once a year and attend an annual general meeting once a year. It can therefore be very difficult for the shareholders to know whether or not the directors are running the company in the shareholders' best interests. There have been many examples of directors abusing the trust put in them by the shareholders. They can award themselves excessive amounts of salary and share options, give themselves generous perks. They can make loans from the company to themselves. They can take undue risks, because if the risk pays off, the director's salary may increase, but if the risk doesn't pay off, it's the shareholders who will lose most, and the directors' positions can remain relatively secure. Corporate governance rules have recently been tightened up so that shareholders can better monitor what the directors are doing and how their company is actually performing.